talk about this story with the Hegseth Signal chat, the second one now. Let's bring in NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube. Courtney, good morning. What's the latest, the details, first of all, of what Hegseth actually did here, who he included in this group, what he shared, and is there pressure, if not from the president, but internally at the Pentagon for something to change here?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, first off, it's really difficult to follow a conversation where you talk about Marty McFly and then talk about Signalgate 2.0. But look, the reality is, as Jonathan was mentioning here, this is a whole nother story from what we all were talking about several weeks ago with the chat that was reported on by The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg. He was mistakenly added to. Why this is so much more important right now and why this is really turning a lot more heads even than the first Signal chat is the fact that Secretary Hegseth himself created this chat, and as you mentioned, he added some of his family members into it. The reality is there is no reason that any of these individuals who have been identified, his wife, his brother, his attorney, his personal attorney, would have any need to know about strikes and attack plans against the Houthi rebels. Candidly, there are people in the Pentagon who are saying, look, it just looks like he was bragging about what they were doing. And it came with the possibility of endangering the lives of the men and women who are flying those manned aircraft into a dangerous environment, an area that the Houthis have shown they can contest. They can contest the airspace. And there were men and women, hundreds of them, on ships afloat not far. In the initial salvo, remember, the U.S. military launched strikes from those ships, not only aircraft. So the fact that the secretary himself is the one who created this Signal chat is why this is causing so much buzz around the Pentagon. And it's for the reason that the Secretary of Defense is supposed to be the model for the young men and women in the military who are supposed to, follow his behavior. I was out on an aircraft carrier a little over a year ago when they were doing strikes against the Houthis. And just to give you a sense of how sensitive they are about the information about these strikes, about 3 or 4 days before the strikes began against the Houthis off this aircraft carrier, the entire carrier, the entire ship goes into this mode. I won't say the name of it, but they go into this mode where essentially no one is allowed to communicate with the outside. They cut off all their communications. You can't send a text home to mom and dad. You can't send an email to your wife or your husband back home. And that is because just the possibility that someone were to send a piece of information that could in any way endanger the mission is such a high priority to ensure that the information is maintained, that they don't let those sailors communicate back home. So the fact that now we have this fantastic reporting out of the New York, initially by the New York Times and matched by a number of other agencies, that's why this is getting so much attention. And as Jonathan mentioned, it also comes amidst this just utter chaos at the top at the Pentagon right now with, a leak investigation that was announced by the Chief of Staff, Joe Casper, several weeks ago. And the first 3 people who were identified and actually escorted out of the building, 2 of them are extremely close to Secretary Hegseth, people he's known for years, worked with for years. They were in his inner circle. They were escorted out of the building, and now they're all talking about how they have no idea why they were even fired. So it's a level of uncertainty in the Pentagon that in my 20 years there, I've never seen anything like it, Willie.
All right, NBC's Courtney Kube reporting for us from the Pentagon this morning. Courtney, thanks so much. Joe, you mentioned anyone who works in intelligence, works in the Defense Department. Frankly, the layman viewer watching the show knows you don't put classified information into a public space like that. Also, the senators who've jumped out, Republican senators, raced out to defend Pete Hegseth again on this round.
How embarrassing.
They all know better, and they were first in line on Hillary Clinton's private server.
I mean, how embarrassing for these GOP senators know so much better about it. And again, I would say Pete Hegseth knows better. And that's what's so surprising is somebody that fought in combat, that's somebody who understood the importance of, again, there are clips out there that of him going after Hillary Clinton and the need to protect classified material. This is not, listen, this is just not a close call. And Meek, of course, the Wall Street Journal editorial page, rightly concerned about this. And they write an editorial today saying Pete Hegseth is proving all of his critics right. He can blame it on the media if he wants to, but this is all his own fault. And all he's doing is proving people like Mitch McConnell and others who said he wasn't ready for this job. He wasn't up to this job yet, proving them right.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal editorial board writing what they call the Hegseth Pentagon Chronicles, reading in part, quote, "No doubt the Beltway press would love to knock Pete Hegseth out as defense secretary, but that doesn't come close to explaining the mess at the Pentagon. The staff infighting, dismissals, and leaks over Signal app chats look to be the self-inflicted mistakes of a management neophyte. As GOP Senator Mitch McConnell warned in voting against Mr. Hegseth's confirmation, the desire to be a change agent isn't a sufficient credential to run the giant Pentagon bureaucracy. Mr. Hegseth's calling card is enforcing high standards and accountability at every military level. He's relieved several general officers to make his point, sometimes firing indiscriminately without checking his scope. Is the secretary accountable himself? Let's bring in Rogers Chair in the American Presidency at Vanderbilt University, historian Jon Meacham.
And John, again, this is unthinkable for any Secretary of Defense
Unthinkable to happen
do.
once.
Unthinkable, just unthinkable that somebody would start their own chat and let civilians in on a pending strike. And the Wall Street Journal editorial page, well, they ask a question that answers itself. Let me ask you. Can you imagine Bob Gates talking about a military strike on an app with friends and family? You can fill in
on an iPhone.
You can fill in Bob Gates with any other SecDef that has held that position over the past 100 years. It just doesn't happen.
Well, I knew you wanted me to speak this morning about Henry Knox, the first Secretary of War.
There he is. Bing, bing,
yeah,
bing.
I thought
again, if it's around the horn, we would give him as many points as we gave Pablo for saying Barabbas on Good Friday. Go ahead, John.
So from Henry Knox to George Marshall to Bob Gates. No, it's. I think Senator McConnell. I think the Journal's right to go harken back to that. Senator McConnell's vote was the right one. These things feel as if, and I'm not in any way making light of it, because these are military operations, these are soldiers' lives that are at stake, but it feels as if it's a fella who got a really exciting new job and wants to talk about it. He seems very, sort of hyped up about acronyms and terms. This is Tom Clancy come to power, and it's not where it seems to me the defenses of the country want to be. One of the things about Washington stories like this, as we know, is the ones that genuinely have impact are the specific that shed light on a universal. Right. So this is one where the specific is, here's an unconventional figure doing a job for which, again, as some United States senator said, he is probably not has the exact right preparation for. And it's a sign that perhaps the President Trump's view that disruption should be the central value in this second term is something that, guess what, might not be the best idea.
Well, I mean, there are places for disruption, but as we've said on this show every single day, the Pentagon is not one of them. It's one of the most complicated, complex bureaucracies in the world. And speaking of Bob Gates, as we said time and time again, Bob Gates said he spent 75% of his time just trying to stay ahead of the game at the Pentagon, and it wasn't until the last maybe couple of hours at the Pentagon that he actually could get to his agenda. It is extraordinarily difficult as a job, and you don't put a neophyte in there, especially one that seems so swept up by excitement that he, again, says the F-16s are launching now. I mean, it's just hard to believe. John.